Hi, it's Paul, and today I'm an old man with a leaky toilet. Excuse the bike gear. I've just come home from riding my bike and I thought I must get this video done. I can assure the squeamish amongst you there is no more bicycle content in this video. So let's move on. So a couple of weeks ago I was asked to look at a toilet that was leaking, and I thought it might be interesting for people who haven't fixed a toilet or are thinking of fixing a leaky toilet or a leaky whatever. I thought it might be interesting just to wander through the process of things that I feel you have to think about when you're taking on such a task. And a toilet, for reasons that you'll see, is an interesting thing to consider, mainly because of the presence of water and where that water might end up. So it's not a full video of me doing the job. It is a collection of stills, mainly photographs, a little bit of video of what I thought about and what I had to consider and how I went about fixing the problem. So, without further ado, let's go to the toilet.
Okay, here we are in the bathroom, and here is the offending article that was leaking. Couple of final points before we get on with it. This is not a how-to. I reiterate, this is not a how-to. This is just a series of thoughts that go through my head as I'm preparing for something like this. And the hope is that you will be able to look at it and go, oh, okay, I need to take that into account when I'm looking at the job that I'm looking at. I am not a professional, so everyone would be screaming, don't take his advice. No, don't take my advice. Use your own advice, but use this to help you to think what you might have to consider. 2, this is quite possibly nothing like the setup that you've got. There are myriad arrangements of WCs, high level, low level, close coupled, different types of valves, different types of controls, different types of pans, different types of everything. Again, general guide, not specific. Paul, get on with it. Yes, okay. Okay, looking at this photograph, what we have is 2 large containers of water. One on the left top, which is the cistern, which contains the water that flushes the toilet. The other is the pan, which also contains water. And then carefully hidden around the other side in this photograph is a cold supply in, which in this instance has a convenient isolator valve in it. Again, the arrangement on yours may be different, but generally you'll have a cistern full of water, a pan with some water in it, and a supply to it. Any of those 3 could be leaking. Depending on which is leaking, depends on how much I'm going to have to take apart and how much I'm going to worry about the water that is contained within. So pretty much the first thing I'm going to do is throw down some old towels that I'm going to use to collect the small amount of water that I am hopeful is going to be the only water that goes on the floor. Then I'm going to go looking for an isolation point to turn off the cold supply to the whole thing, possibly including this valve. So I might have to turn off the water main coming into the house, or I might have to turn off a supply tank somewhere in a loft. Then I'm going to go looking for containers to catch the water that will come out, even though I've got the towels down. It will come out. Generally speaking, I find flatter, lower trays are more useful than buckets. Now, depending on where the water's leaking from, I might find I've got to empty this particular bucket of water, the cistern, or I may also find I've got to empty the water out the bottom of the pan. In either of these scenarios, a wet vac is most definitely one's friend. Of course, I didn't take either of mine with me on that particular excursion, so what I did to get round this was I disconnected the cistern and emptied the cistern into the pan before I disconnected that. Then I bailed out the bottom of the pan with a small beaker, and then I only had a small amount of water left in the bottom of the pan, which I tipped into one of the trays when I finally disconnected the pan. As a point of note, if you are having to disconnect the pan from the waste, then it's worth having another piece of cloth or paper or something to plug off the pipe that comes out the wall, which is the waste pipe. Otherwise, you will get the smell from the sewers permeating your atmosphere. Also, for the faint-hearted, if you're actually starting to take this part of the system apart, then you are dealing with waste. You may want to wear gloves. You may want to almost definitely wash your hands afterwards. To me, it's just a part of the job. But to you, if you don't want to do it, call a professional. There are many other things to consider when doing the job. If it's really old school, is the pan cemented into the floor? That's a drama. How good are the fixings that are holding the system to the wall? What's the pipe work like? Is it fragile? Blah, 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 blah. There's a lot to take in and a lot to think about before you start on it. But at a bare minimum, the least I always do, if I'm taking the pipe work off, I change the tap connector fibre washer, because the one that's on there will have gone all soft and squidgy and needs changing. Do I use sealant? Well, at the risk of sealant wars starting out in the comments, yes I do. I use this Fernox sealant jointing compound. There are many other things you can use. There's PTFE tape, there's stuff like this True Blue, both of which are actually thread sealants, not really meant for union type or compression type joints. Then you've got things like Fernox LSX or what's the new stuff, CT1, all of which are kind of silicon sealers. Again, they will work. But the thing I try to have in mind is the question, who will be the next person to work on this? And certainly if it's at home, it will be me. So I want to use something that I'm going to be able to take apart and clean up relatively easily, which is why people hate silicon-based stuff, because silicon is a nightmare to remove. Just to be clear, I have used all of the previously mentioned in the past making joints quite successfully. If I've got it with me, I use this, and this is the replacement for what was the old school Boss White. There are situations where I'd use PTFE tape or thread seal, and they would be for things like radiator valves where the threaded part of the valve screws into the radiator itself. As I say, it's just a matter of the next time the joint is taken apart, how easy is it to clean up. There are some things I would definitely not use, but have known to be used. My house, quick rant, my house, which I bought brand new from quality professional building contractors, appears to be almost exclusively held together with grip fill. There's grip fill holding radiators onto walls, there's grip fill making plumbing joints, there's grip fills holding electrical boxes on the wall. There's grip fill everywhere. I have nothing against grip fill, but it really isn't the stuff to build an entire house with. And there are many moments when I wish the builders that constructed my house had never heard of it. I personally would not use grip fill to make plumbing joints because it is a real drama removing it when you want to take the joint apart. So you can use whatever your favourite plumbing influencer screams at you to use, or you can not use whatever they scream at you not to use, or you can use whatever you've got in your shed or garage at the time you need it and hope it's going to get you out of trouble. Tools then. If I'm working on something, a connector that has flat faces on the nut, I'm going to use a spanner or an adjustable spanner because it's got flat faces that locate on the flat faces of the nut. If I'm working on a fitting that doesn't have flat faces, for instance, if I'm trying to hold the body of the valve, then I might use grips or something along those lines. Ideally, I'm not going to use grips on the faces of the nuts because it rips the chrome off and shreds all the brass and makes them look generally horrible. But if it's all you've got and you need to get the job done, then go you. So just to conclude, to explain what actually happened on this toilet in this instant, the leak was here on the pan connector. and it doesn't show particularly well in this photograph, but you can just about see that the angle that the pan connector is at between the toilet and the waste pipe is completely wrong. It's all tipped backwards, and what that was doing was pressing the upper side of the WC connection onto the upper side of the pan connector and pulling it away from the bottom. To be fair, it's taken 20 odd years to start leaking, so it's not done badly, but that was the issue. You can also see that the end of the waste pipe itself has been very badly cut, and that also I would have liked to have replaced, but in this instance that option wasn't available to me. Anyway, I stood the toilet back up against the waste pipe and measured the distance between the bottom of the waste pipe and the bottom of the toilet spigot. Distance was about 20mm, so I perused the Screwfix catalogue and bought a 20mm offset from the local Screwfix, cleaned all the spigot up, cleaned all the waste pipe and everything else up, then fitted the new pan adapter with the offset without any sealer, and we're good to go. So here's the finished job. It now occurs to me that what I could have done was turn that bit of waste pipe upside down and it would have looked slightly better, but hey ho, I could have also edited it in the picture, but that wouldn't change it in real life. So, job done. Let's head home, edit the video and upload it, in fairness, about 3 weeks later.
Okay, so that's all the excitement over. The leak is now fixed. Peace and tranquility has returned to the general bathroom area, and we can all move on with our lives. Hope it's been of some use to you. If you've got any comments or questions, by all means chuck them in the comments below, or on oldmanwith.com on the Ask a Question button, whichever. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.